Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my FXmovies.20 channel? Thank you so much. He awaited the moment my daughter succumbed to slumber. He cautiously opened the door to my room. Upon entering, I exercised the utmost caution to remain silent. With a delicate kiss on my face, he soothed me. I resolved to allow events to unfold organically to discern his intentions. I vividly recall the inception of that night. My name is Anna. I am 45 years of age. Today, I will recount how my son-in-law unexpectedly transformed my life during one particular evening. Please remain until the conclusion to fully assess my actions. You may find yourself supporting my decision to invite him to dinner, which I believed would be an excellent opportunity to deepen our acquaintance. That evening unfolded in perfect harmony as we gathered around the table for a delightful and relaxing meal. My son-in-law, a charming young man with an engaging personality and innate charisma, joined us alongside my daughter, who radiated happiness. Occasionally, they exchanged knowing glances that conveyed more than words could express. It was heartwarming to witness their profound affection for one another. They formed such a lovely couple that my heart swelled with peace and joy. After dinner, I suggested he stay the night at our home as it was late. The distance to his residence was substantial, and the route was perilous. My daughter smiled, promptly accepting. He appeared to embrace the idea. Everything seemed perfectly arranged. However, I suddenly observed a shadow of concern on my daughter's face, an expression she attempted to conceal but could not evade my attention. What could be troubling her? Was it related to university or perhaps an issue with her boyfriend? This uncertainty began to trouble me, yet I resolved not to inquire at that moment. I decided to wait until we were alone to comprehend the situation. As my daughter arranged the kitchen, my concern intensified. She was evidently distressed. She attempted to conceal her emotions, although I perceived the burden she bore. Each of her movements appeared strained, even robotic. I could not endure witnessing her distress and softly inquired, "Are you certain everything is satisfactory, dear?" She hesitated momentarily, exhaled heavily, and gazed at me with an expression that conveyed more than words could articulate. Her eyes reflected discomfort and a trace of disappointment. "Mother," she initiated the narrative on the eye but then paused, seemingly contemplating whether to proceed. Before we advance, if you are tracking this tale, remember to subscribe to the channel and provide a like. Remain engaged, as the forthcoming segment is the most revealing. I chose to inquire further about the situation. "You can confide in me. I am consistently there to listen." I softly placed my palm on her face in an attempt to convey solace and reassurance, and she closed her eyes for a little while, as if summoning the fortitude to articulate her thoughts. She inhaled deeply, remaining uncertain until she ultimately. "He continues to gaze at you at that instant." My heart raced. I was amazed. Despite having observed several glances from him throughout the evening, it appeared that his interest extended beyond viewing me merely as the mother of his girlfriend. Particularly when I turned or leaned over, I endeavored to conceal my astonishment and sought to comfort her, suggesting that perhaps he was simply anxious in an effort to alleviate the palpable tension. However, I was acutely aware that the circumstances were significantly more intricate than they appeared, prompting her to exhale deeply once more, this time with greater depth and careful selection of her words. She noted that this was not the first occurrence. "I believe he regards you differently, Mom, though perhaps it is merely my perception." I remained silent for a few minutes as I processed her statement. Her distress became apparent, and I sensed the gravity of the issue. I then attempted to soothe her calmly. "Do not be concerned, dear. All men experience such moments. It is commonplace, and there is no need for anxiety." I expressed this to comfort her, yet I was acutely aware that it was not merely her imagination. He had indeed regarded me in a manner that transcended the usual. To be candid, a part of me relished that attention. It was a complex sentiment to articulate, nearly irresistible. I gazed into her eyes and, feigning curiosity, inquired, "What do you intend to do about it?" Attempting to avoid being overly intrusive, she shrugged and replied, "I don't know, Mom. I genuinely want things to work out between us, but at times I feel as though he is just like all the others." I nodded slowly, absorbing her words and contemplating my next response. "Dear, relationships can be intricate. The crucial aspect is that both of you are willing to communicate and reach agreements. Jealousy is inherent, but we must not allow it to dominate the situation." She met my gaze for a moment before leaning in to embrace me. "Thank you, Mother." While I concurred with her apprehensions, I could not overlook my own observations. My son-in-law undeniably exhibited a distinct demeanor as my daughter was imperceptible to him. I distinctly remembered how his gaze was riveted on me whenever I spoke, and the previous evening at the table, his stare was unwavering and intense, as if he yearned to convey something beyond verbal articulation. He was undeniably an attractive young man. His physique and charming smile enhanced his allure. During dinner, he demonstrated himself to be a natural and astute conversationalist, speaking passionately about his projects and future aspirations while amusing me with his witty comments. It was evident that he aimed to impress me, and to be candid, he succeeded. Halfway through the meal, I thought that had I been younger, I might have found him appealing. I articulated it jestingly, yet I recognized there was more beneath the surface than mere humor. It was difficult to disregard, even for someone like me who had long surpassed adolescent infatuations. My daughter chuckled, perceiving it as one of my customary quips, unaware that my interest in him was evident in the manner I observed him and inquired about his life and passions, allowing my more vivacious side to emerge. Despite my awareness that such musings were ill-advised, I acknowledged the potential peril of my thoughts. After clearing the table and tidying up, my daughter and I lingered in the kitchen while I endeavored to clarify my thoughts. Was my contemplation merely fanciful, or was there a deeper significance? I experienced confusion and a twinge of guilt for contemplating such possibilities. Simultaneously, I recognized the absurdity of the situation. He was significantly younger than I, and moreover, he was my daughter's boyfriend. Nonetheless, a part of me couldn't resist envisioning what it might be like to share an experience with him. I realized I was allowing my thoughts to drift excessively, shaking my head in an attempt to dispel these notions, feeling a slight shame for indulging my imagination. I could not entertain the idea that he was my daughter's partner and they were in a relationship, yet I felt a flutter in my stomach as if I desired something to transpire between us. Subsequently, I returned to the living room where my daughter and son-in-law were seated on the couch, engaged in conversation. I observed them for a moment, experiencing a twinge of envy as I watched their embrace. I could not refute that he evoked emotions within me, rejuvenating feelings I had not experienced in a considerable duration. As I approached, he turned to me with a distinct smile and remarked, "Thank you for inviting me to dinner, mother-in-law. It was a most enjoyable evening." I smiled in reply, endeavoring to steer my thoughts away from improper realms. "I am quite pleased to have you here. You are always welcome in our home." At that point, my daughter cast a fleeting, almost wary glance at me, as if she had momentarily discerned my thoughts. Nonetheless, to my astonishment, she remained silent. He remained silent as well, maintaining a strange smile, possibly attempting to suppress his emotions. Conversely, I remained composed, adopting a light-hearted demeanor as if it were merely a trivial joke, while internally my heart raced with anxiety. The atmosphere was palpable, and I sensed that we were all cognizant of an unspoken understanding. She approached with a faint smile, embraced me, and wished me good night, indicating her intention to sleep in the guest room. I reciprocated the gesture, striving to maintain my composure, and observed her retreat down the hallway. Once she vanished from sight, I ascended the stairs to my bedroom. The evening had been enjoyable yet somewhat draining. The tumult of emotions weighed heavily on my mind, and I could not shake the tension that persisted among us. I lay down, attempting to dispel these thoughts, sensations, and attain tranquility. However, I was far from anticipating what was about to transpire. Once I entered my room, I removed my shoes and proceeded to the bathroom to have a calming shower before bed, seeking a moment to unwind and reflect on the events of dinner. As the hot water flowed over my skin, I sensed the day's tensions gradually abating. I closed my eyes, allowing my mind to wander to illicit thoughts, contemplating matters I ought not to entertain. I endeavored to quell my impulses and suppress the desires that clamored for attention. Yet an internal restlessness persisted, an unsettling sensation as if something or someone were absent, completing the scene. It was then that I felt a chill traverse my spine, an uncomfortable awareness as though I were being observed. I opened my eyes and scanned the surroundings, attempting to penetrate the steam enveloping the bathroom. My gaze fell upon the fog mirror, which merely reflected my indistinct silhouette. Yet a palpable tension permeated the air, an invisible presence lurking within the shadows of the steam. I inhaled deeply and shook my head, striving to persuade myself that it was merely my burgeoning paranoia and imagination at play. In an attempt to regain control, I redirected my attention to the shower. However, I could not dispel the chill coursing through my body, a blend of fear and curiosity that I felt unprepared to confront. The feeling remained constant, as though an invisible force was watching me from the other side of the curtain. My heart started racing despite my efforts to disregard it. I concentrated on completing my shower. After wrapping myself in a towel, I opened the bathroom door, still enveloped in unease. Before entering my bedroom, I hesitated and glanced down the hallway to ensure everything was in order. The house was steeped in silence, yet uncomfortable invisible tension lingered in the air. At that moment, a daring thought occurred to me: could he still be awake? Even worse, it felt like I was listening in through a tiny opening. My entire body trembled at the notion. I shook my head in an attempt to dismiss such conjectures, yet the amalgamation of fear and a peculiar exhilaration rendered it challenging to discern my true emotions. The thought elicited a smile as I felt a sense of mischief at the possibility of my son-in-law observing me. However, I also contemplated that he might have encountered me by mere chance. I resolved against inquiring, as I did not wish to appear as an intrusive mother-in-law. Perhaps it was merely my imagination deceiving me. I retreated to my bedroom and changed in an attempt to dispel those ideas. However, the doubt lingered. Was my son-in-law genuinely surveilling me, or was it merely an inadvertent occurrence? I felt on the brink of insanity, as if an eruption of suppressed impulses was imminent. My heart raced, my thoughts spiraled in a tumultuous frenzy, precluding any semblance of logic or reason. Pet in a towel, I reclined on the bed, endeavoring to quell the inner turmoil. I shut my eyes, grappling to dispel the intrusive, forbidden notions that relentlessly besieged my mind. Gradually, fatigue prevailed. I eventually succumbed to sleep, though residual unease lingered. However, the situation escalated amidst a dream. I felt a gentle touch on my arm. At first, I thought it was just a dream, but the sensation was so real that I couldn't ignore it. Gradually, I opened my eyes, attempting to discern the darkness of the room, and to my astonishment, my son-in-law stood beside my bed with a calm smile. I was profoundly taken aback by the realization that he had entered my room as my daughter slept peacefully in the other room. I whispered, attempting to suppress the quiver in my voice, "What is your purpose for being here?" My heart raced as I struggled to stay calm despite the whirlwind of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. He remained silent for a few seconds, his eyes fixed on mine, filled with an almost irresistible intensity. Finally, he stepped closer, leaned down, and replied in a low, husky voice, "You know." Those words echoed within me, awakening feelings I was desperate to suppress. "She's asleep, and I think we should enjoy this moment," he whispered. Without saying a word, my fingers instinctively wrapped around his hand, pulling him closer. He didn't hesitate, taking a step forward, and at that moment, we gave in to what seemed inevitable. The tension that had lingered between us, building for so long, turned into a whirlwind that engulfed us completely. There, in the darkness of my room, where secrets hide and desires intensify, we let ourselves go. It was as if everything we had repressed finally surfaced, exploding in that moment, consuming us in a mix of emotions. He and I shared unforgettable moments, making me feel young and desired again. In that instant, it didn't matter whether what we did was right or wrong, all we wanted was to make the most of it. After about 50 minutes of intense passion, I suggested he return to the guest room. I informed him that my daughter might awaken at any moment. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, he promptly collected his belongings and departed, leaving me to contemplate the recent events alone. I relished that moment, acknowledging the impulsive folly of my actions. I understand he is my son-in-law, and my daughter might view it as inappropriate, yet I found myself unable to restrain my desires. How could I possibly resist something so intense? What would you do in my situation? I invite you to share your perspective in the comments. Let's engage in a discussion. At that moment, I was consumed by my innermost desires, and I recognized that I may have erred by permitting the situation to escalate. I should not have allowed him entry, nor should I have permitted events to unfold as they did. Nevertheless, I do not harbor any regrets. Despite the circumstances, it was an extraordinary experience. An ordinary experience for me, that young man made me feel cherished and desired, rekindling a long dormant passion. I do not regret it. Have you ever experienced a situation where you received unexpected glances from someone? How did you respond? It is intriguing how such moments can be alluring, often challenging to disregard. After all, who does not appreciate feeling desired, even if that desire originates from one's own son-in-law? If you appreciated my narrative, please subscribe to the channel and enable notifications to stay updated on future videos. Additionally, I have pinned a link in the comments that unveils an effective and infallible strategy to become irresistibly adept at winning over any woman you desire. Do not overlook this chance to transform your life. Be sure to explore it. Currently unavailable.